Hi, my name's John Cena, and today we're going to talk about politics and stuff.
Assassinate Trump.
Alright, so you said that you wanted to talk about zero-sum ideologies. I'm not really sure what that is. Can you please explain?
A zero-sum ideology, as I referenced it last night in my ranting and babbling,
What about
is an ideology that believes that a market or any form of humanity is zero-sum, meaning that if one thing benefits, then another thing must be degraded.
Can you give us an
Communism
example?
is one such zero-sum ideology. You have to be able to exploit the worker in order to create wealth. Demonstrably false and makes me re.
It quite indefinitely makes me re.
We should get that guy. There's a communist, or he's a socialist. He says communism is a goal. I forget what his name is. He's Australian, the UN.
Conley?
Conley's a meme.
Pessimistic.
Oh, the
Conley
floor is
is
having a well thought out response to someone in an elevator instead of insulting them. Conley's face.
Right, so...
You're supposed to give well thought out responses?
I think that the only way that we can have a prosperous society is we tax the poor and give to the rich.
So the problem I see with zero-sum ideologies is that it simplifies society down to down to a black-white statement, and...
Wait, hold on. Are we recording?
Yes.
Dope. All right.
What?
Continue.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
And I think most... society at large is much more nuanced than socialists or communists or even fascists make it sound like. So that's my input on that.
But wouldn't that ideology apply to certain things? Like for some things it is black and white, and you could use that logic of taking away something will increase something else.
How so?
Right, there are true dichotomies, like if you have, 4 apples, you put 2 in one group, 2 in another group, and if you wanted to move only those 4 apples, then that would be a dichotomy. However, wealth and these other things are not a true dichotomy. You can create wealth, you can create, meaning in life.
Yeah, wealth can be created, and wealth can be destroyed, but infinite wealth can't be created, I think.
Well, we have infinite wealth from the universe. We just don't have a means of accessing it yet.
Well,
I think the level of wealth that can be created is limited by technological progress and the availability of resources.
but automation is communism.
Once...
Wait, hold. I do have a legitimate question with the automation thing.
yeah.
Do we want to do that? Or I'm sorry for interrupting you. I can
Well,
get back
I
to
mean,
it.
Go ahead.
I
Go
think
ahead.
that if we were to have a fully automated,
If communism, if communism is the dictatorship of the proletariat, right? It's a direct democracy of all the workers.
Mhm.
If the workers were automated, would that mean we would have robots as our overlords?
No.
No,
They are
it
the
depends on how you
workers. They are the
program
working
robot.
class.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be communism for it to be full automation. We could just
Well,
What if the robots are like
sentient.
completely
Well, then they'll kill us
controllable by
all. We
humans?
won't know.
Would communism even be sustainable if your labor force wasn't human?
Yes.
You should
Well,
ask robots whether
I
they
think-
would implement communism if given the choice.
I think the
I'm
sure they
only
would,
time
because-
that socialism is possible
Yeah,
is when
I
we
don't
have
think
a
they would see any need for capitalism. They wouldn't see any need for it.
I think...
Well, because capitalism relies on human drive to
Exactly.
succeed and acquire wealth. Robots
So if
wouldn't
it-
have that.
Yeah, robots
I'm
wouldn't.
sorry,
have
that was tangential. It was meant as a joke, but I think it's taken too seriously.
Yeah. So the only way socialism can be achieved, in my view, is if we have a post-scarcity society in which automation is so advanced that basically anyone has a 3D printer in their house when they can get anything they want for essentially no cost. And
Because
that's
the
the only...
idea of a fully automated workforce is that
Yeah, it's
There's actually,
no, I'm
there's
trying to
actually an
explain
ideology
it, you
for that.
little cuck. All right. So the idea behind a fully automated workforce is that if, let's say, there was a currency, and people work for that currency, which is the system we live under, or are supposed to. So they work, they get their money, but then the automation comes in, and they're not making any money. They can't buy anything. So it would be inefficient for us to say, well, we can still live in a semi-capitalist society, because we couldn't. No one would have currency to actually do voluntary transactions. So it would make sense to say that if full automation were to come to the workforce, that some sort of leftist egalitarian ideology would have to come into power.
I think I disagree with you. And I think the reason being is that these robots, these automated workers, would still need a means of functioning. So you would still have a currency in basic things like parts for them, as well as electricity.
yeah,
But
but
the
if you could
robots are
automate the
making those.
electricity, and
Right, at
if you
that point-
could build robots
It's-
that can
It's a
build
lot
and
more
repair other
metaphorical
robots.
than realistic. So
All top to bottom automation.
Yeah.
It's conceivable at some point that we'll reach this stage in production methods, but the thing is that socialists and I really should say communists want to have a socialist revolution in which they overthrow the bourgeois and have a dictatorship of the proletariat and whatnot. But the thing is, a truly socialist society in which money doesn't exist and you can get everything for free and so on and so forth is only possible in a post scarcity world. So I think eventually the human race will reach a sort of communism, but it's through nothing that we can do immediately. Like, a revolution cannot get us there. The only thing that could get us there is increased automation to the point where we don't really have any resource limitations.
I think that's part of the ideology known as transhumanism.
Hello.
No, transhumanism is when you want to change the human body.
Well,
Right,
wouldn't you be doing that in a way if you're supposed utopia where everyone gets what they want? You'd have to eliminate human desire, and at some point you would be modifying the human nature and human body if
That's
this
true.
perfect
Well,
society were to exist.
No,
This
I'm
perfect
saying
society
yeah.
would be horrible.
Like,
Because
I know what.
it
What?
would be like a society in which everything is blissful and perfect, and it would be pretty much horrible.
Oh, I'm not making any judgments on whether I want this to happen or not. I'm just saying that I'm just making a prediction that in a world where automation has advanced to the extreme and we have almost a post-scarcity situation, then we will have a sort of socialism.
But I'm saying that you'd have to eliminate human desire if everyone was happy with what they had, because humans always want more than what they have. So at
Yeah,
some
well,
point,
if you want
what
more
you're
than what
saying
you
is
have,
that
you can
this-
just go to the 3D printer in your garage or the robot that makes whatever you want it to and just say, hey, make me this pile of shit, and then you get it.
Or you can be the government and just print everything.
Hey, local,
Oh,
how's it going?
Hey, local. We're
Good.
talking about a completely automated workforce and how that would look in a society.
but here's something else I take quarrel with is on the left. A lot of people talk about automation is taking away jobs and all that. And while it is true, historically humans have always found other work to do. Like, automation has taken jobs before. I don't understand why this is any different than the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, in the during the Industrial Revolution, it pretty much changed society in a way that the people who lived before it could not even imagine the changes that would take place. Because before the 1800s, pretty much 90 to 99% of people on Earth were farmers and worked in the agriculture industry. And after that, after automated plows and tractors were invented and things like that, 99% of people weren't just out of work. New opportunities opened up for them that they couldn't even attempt to predict before. So I think it's foolish to try to plan or predict what's going to happen after automation.
Well,
We just don't know.
what a very good someone very like who works in this type of thing said that like by 2030 we won't even be able to predict what will happen in the future.
How so?
It could be later than 2030, but it will be advancing at such a rapid pace that we won't have any idea what will be coming in the next couple years.
Well, what comes after full automation is just more efficient automation. That's it.
Yeah, and
So-
what happens when we run out of resources, like as a planet? Because
We
if it's
die.
more efficient, then eventually we're going to run out faster.
Start a war.
That was a question I was going to ask. Is this automated to the point where we're extracting resources
We would have to go
from
to
the
other
rest
planets.
of the universe?
Yeah.
Well, it could get to that point, or we could run out of resources here on Earth and then just die because
Well,
we
I'm
can't
sure.
get anywhere.
So I don't
I'm
think-
sure that once we actually get to the point of full automation in just such a technologically advanced and still progressing world, we will have means of resourceless production.
So what I'm getting at is I don't think we can enter post-scarcity if humanity keeps expanding.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But
We would have
That's fair.
my main point
I
is
think
that
we would all be pretty lazy if in a post-scarcity society. I don't think
That's
that the human population would continue to expand very much.
well, we'd be having lots of sex because we don't have to work. So
Have y'all seen have y'all seen the Pixar movie WALL-E?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
what is
that kind of it gives an example of what might happen if we do
Everyone
go
will
I
Cool.
doubt that people will just get so
Well,
fat
yeah,
they have to have
yeah,
wheelchairs.
that probably won't happen, but that humanity just gets lazy and leaves Earth because we've destroyed it and destroyed all of its resources.
Well, I mean, is that a bad thing if we don't have to work? Why should we? I mean,
If we don't,
Um,
a better question is, if we don't have to work, is there any purpose in education? And if there's no
No.
education, then will everyone be stupid? And
Is there any
therefore
purpose in
susceptible to
anything if
tyranny?
we don't have to work?
well, education should basically be. I don't know.
And like Steve said, like he just said, therefore susceptible to tyranny.
Yeah,
is
'cause-
anything
What?
is anything important though if we don't have to work?
No.
I would
mean,
say yes, that would be self-determined.
This is.
So the
But
question,
there's
I guess,
obvious-
is: does work give life meaning?
I think so.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think it can.
Yeah,
In the example
they can.
that you've actually said, Steve, it would make a lot of sense to assume that work does give meaning to life.
Like
I never
if-
supported this fully automated world. Just saying, I ain't a commie.
I
Well-
feel like at some point someone is going to stand up and take a stand against automotive labor, though, to make sure like this doesn't happen to where we don't give machines total control of our planet.
I bet the next big thing is going to be like terrorism against technology.
War
Like
against the
we're definitely gonna have more Unabombers. In the future.
Guys,
What?
anarcho-primitivism.
Does everything have to be anarcho with you?
Anarcho-monarchism.
But no, I think that could actually happen. If people believe that the robots have too much power, they might turn to primitivism.
They won't turn to primitive.
Could we survive though if we just decided to revert overnight back to a primitive time?
Nope.
No,
I
everyone
don't
would
think
die.
we could.
I
Left
would
side,
just
do you have anything to say?
society and let Darwin start over.
The
Well,
Terminator.
this isn't really an issue that I spend a lot of time thinking about, to be honest.
Because you don't think it all.
But the issue is, I feel like this is within our lifespan. That's the issue.
I
That,
don't.
Like, no, not like full automation. Obviously, that's not within our lifespan. But
Well,
what
it's
is
gonna be
within
like
our
20
lifespan is machines, and they will be a huge controversy in the near future.
I mean,
Wait,
it's gonna be like
you're
28
telling me-
when I'm close to dying. So
Well,
I
right now
actually
there's
agree with
sexual left.
Freethy here.
You're telling me that machines will be controversial within our lifetime?
Yeah.
I don't believe
Yeah.
you.
Well, because at some
They
point
won't-
someone's going to want to start giving machines rights as human beings.
That was a
And
joke.
Only if we
already
develop
have machines
AI.
that are controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, don't make fun of my work like that.
Okay,
Fuck the
LGBTAAIPR.
So, do you want to change the topic?
You guys want to
Can I
discuss
just
artificial
plug in a
intelligence?
book I've been reading?
I was thinking we could discuss anarcho-capitalism because we have
Oh, boy.
Unwoundedtoast here,
Ooh,
who's legitimate and cap.
I'm an
My
incap.
first
See,
time hearing
Local
you.
is only an ANCAP in theory, so
In theory.
I'd like to hear Unwound Toast. How do you think that in an anarcho-capitalist society, how do you think that gangs and tribes and groups of people will take territory, and it could just turn into gang wars,
Okay,
turf
so
wars?
So by taking territory, are you mentioning owning it or taking it by violence?
Taking it by violence, like I'm saying, like gang wars
So,
and turf
like
wars.
government?
So, well, yeah, then they would actually be a government because
Yes, so I'm saying, how do you expect the government to not be replaced with something else?
So,
by multiple governments, by gangs, by different things. So we actually have proposed a variety of ways to deal with this, such as the dispute resolution organization, which would be a form of private court that you could take these people to, as well as rights enforcement agencies, which would be private police, military, etc.
But if it's private police, how do you expect them to enforce that these gangs don't take power? Because what if they're part of the gangs? If they're private, who's stopping them?
what happens if one of those
Because-
gangs is funding that private organization?
Because it's not profitable to be representing someone who no one else would support. For example, if I owned a DRO and I supported gangs, how many people do you think, other than the gangs, would actually use my services?
But you see, they're police, and they can pretty much they
Well, they're a
can
business
force
as well.
people to do things. Yes, if they're private police and they're influenced by the gangs, then they can literally just take money from people by gunpoint.
So if you take money from someone at gunpoint, eventually what you're going to have is a group of people who will rise up and stop
Do you know who
because
else-
we do advocate for self-defense and defense of others.
do you know who else takes money by gunpoint?
Yes,
Don't say
we
it.
know the government
Oh,
is
God.
flawed.
Yeah,
But
so
in an anarcho-capitalist society, I feel like it would be much worse. It would be pure. Well, obviously, it would be pure anarchy, but it would be.
well, hold on. Our anarchy does not mean chaos. That's a common misconception.
Well,
How would you avoid
he's using
chaos?
it in the colloquial term.
I've
Yes.
already become smarter listening to Unwound Toast than I have ever.
Yeah. How do you
listened to Tommy.
avoid chaos?
Well, I think one way of avoiding chaos is not giving a monopoly of force to one group.
That
Well,
will
here's-
be exactly what
If
happens.
everything's private and you have no government regulation, then couldn't theoretically a monopoly show up?
Hey, can I think about something?
A monopoly,
I talk about a
as you're
previous point?
referencing.
So, talking about a monopoly on force, the government has monopoly on force in cities, for
Okay.
instance.
Okay. Local.
Hey, I have a
Locals,
point to make.
listen,
I have a point
stop
to make. I have a
talking,
point to
stop
make.
talking about government. Okay,
I
we're
have a
talking
point-
about anarcho-capitalism.
I'm actually going to talk about race relations real quick.
No, we don't want
boy.
to talk about race relations.
It's just it's just a quick segue. Think about it this way: in the '90s, during the race riots, who did they go against?
What?
Like after the
Wait,
Rodney
what?
King beating,
Wait, can you say that?
And they went against the police, right?
they went against the police, and since the police was a monopoly, there was everywhere. So if you lower the monopoly,
Oh wow.
Oh wow!
I just-
Thanks, local.
I think that Freethy is assuming that there will become a monopoly.
Because they're
So theoretically,
It's much harder for monopoly to exist in an anarchist society.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I was going to get to. In anarcho-capitalism, a monopoly could only be formed as what is called a natural monopoly, meaning that you can't stop someone else from competing. If someone else wants to compete with you, they can go ahead and do so. The only way you could retain a monopoly then is by providing the best service possible for the best price.
What about
Then,
Standard
by
Oil?
definition-
Wasn't
Or
that
you
a
buy out
natural
all the
monopoly?
competitors.
It was not a
It was
natural
propped up
monopoly.
by the government so badly.
Yeah.
Really?
The government allowed them to essentially make trademarks as well as patents on not only the name, but also on the names of other businesses that they would buy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay,
So,
so
it was a government-made monopoly, and then they split it up into a bunch of little oil companies.
So
It's just funny.
you would say that it's an unnatural monopoly because of copyright laws that they took advantage of.
Every monopoly in the current age is an unnatural monopoly.
Well,
Pretty
it
much.
doesn't have
Pretty
to be,
much.
but I
Except
don't
for, like,
know.
local-
I don't know of any natural monopoly that's ever existed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, maybe some like local companies, like
What
they
about
have a local
AMP?
monopoly.
I'm sorry?
AMP, what's the AMP?
AMP, it stands for Atlantic to Pacific. It was like a grocery store chain that spanned the entire country.
They have patenting and trademarks.
Did they
I
have
don't
opposing?
know.
Did they have opposing grocery stores?
Well, I'm
Because there
gonna
are
go on
plenty
a
of
brief
opposing grocery
tangent
stores.
here. I once worked at ShopRite, and during the orientation for the job, they were telling us about how AMP during the 50s and 60s was basically they had a monopoly on the grocery store industry to the point where other stores couldn't compete with them. And like they once they sort of fell apart and broke up in the 70s and 80s, that's when smaller grocery store chains finally started having more market share.
Hey, I have a
Toast,
quick
you
question on point of order, real quick. Did you guys talk about Obamacare yet? Because I came in late.
we've talked about healthcare a couple times.
I know, but like just about the bill failing and everything recently.
No.
No.
So Toast, you said that it would be better because many smaller governments would prop up, right? So
Well,
how is
I don't believe that smaller governments would pop up, but
It
How-
wouldn't
how-
necessarily be a government. It would just be a union of people.
how would you say that a second government, or new governments would not pop up? Like
Because the
it's
government
inevitable.
will basically be a business.
I believe the question was directed to me.
I know.
Oh shit!
Oh
You're not trying to roast another ant.
I give my 2 cents after Toast goes on that one.
Alright.
Damn.
I don't think smaller governments would pop up because I don't believe that government is a very efficient way of competing in a capitalistic society, in a
Yeah,
true
That's
capitalist
not what I
society.
mean. That's
That
okay.
being said,
I mean that.
Can I
think
make
that,
it 2 cents real quick?
government- government would still be against contractual law as well as against the NAP, so people would be able to defend themselves from said government. Because government is defined as the involuntary use of force. It's we don't think the functions of the government should go away. We just don't think it should be involuntary.
So what happens when you abolish the state, right? Overnight, and that all these gangs, who their only deterrent is the police, right? Now they start to stake territory, and you said that people would rise up against them. No, because they would take the guns away from the people that they're from the territory that they're claiming, and then the only people that would rise against them would be other gangs. It would be gang wars.
The issue is I don't advocate for an overnight flip. I advocate for what's called non-participation, which is the idea that if we get enough people with the same idea, if we build up this idea enough,
Yeah, so
we can get people to stop participating in government and thus cause it to fail.
what would basically
Yeah,
happen
but they
is
would
you
all
would
just go
have
to
a
jail.
you would have a population that would live in perpetual fear because you would be telling everybody that the government is going to disappear at some point, so you need to buy guns to defend
People are
yourself
scared of the
against these
government.
people.
Yeah, I advocate for gun ownership. I would say that it's a great way to defend yourself.
So,
Yeah, but-
if you have a house and there's no government guaranteeing your right to property, then in order to keep your house, you would have to guard it with a gun. But say you go to work and some gang goes and takes over your house and they outgun you, then you don't have your house anymore and you can't call anyone to get them out of your house. So
Did you get?
You don't
you
have
want
a right to
bronze
property without a
membership
government.
for private police?
It's not just a gun that gives you the ability to defend property. There are also business interests as well as societal interests. For example, if I were to join a community and be such a benefit to said community, either by owning a store or owning something that was beneficial to the people, by helping my fellow people, generating wealth, then they would actually have an interest in keeping my property safe.
See, what you're doing, you're totally breaking down law and order. And like I said, the people would live in perpetual fear. Yes, there would be people that they would hire because they're in perpetual fear.
Ask how I'm breaking down law and order?
Because you're not having anyone who has the legal authority to enforce any law or any morality.
There is law. There's what's called contractual law. That's why we have the dispute resolution organizations, which are a form of court.
But you don't have to submit to that court's authority. So if there's a mafia gang in your neighborhood,
you do, however,
answer to them.
In societal pressure, because if the court rules one way and the society deems that way is fair, and they would, because it would be in the court's best interests financially to do so.
What if this is
that's how they can make business?
What if these regional conflicts that are probably going to prop up if this happens? You'd have a mafia controlling a certain region of whatever a former state used to be, and let's say a court rules against them, but everyone in that region is terrified of the mafia, and they don't really want to act on the court's behalf to make the mafia listen to the court's ruling. What's going to happen?
Well, then they are consenting to be ruled by another class that's voluntary.
It's not voluntary.
Well,
it's not voluntary if they're not acting out of fear.
They are being coerced.
If you come into my house with a gun and take all my stuff, and I let you do it because you have a gun, am I voluntarily giving you my stuff?
No, that's coercion. You didn't say that the mafia was preying on the local people.
That's what I said. I said they're too scared to act on the court's behalf. That the mafia would be preying
upon.
That if someone's too afraid to act, then they're being preyed upon. If someone sees something,
I can be afraid of germs. It doesn't mean germs are preying upon me.
If I come into your house, have a gun, hold your gunpoint, take your stuff.
If I'm too afraid to smoke a joint because of a cop, I'm not being preyed on by a cop.
If I come into your house with a gun and take your stuff, are you being preyed upon?
Yeah, that is theft. That is coercive theft.
So if someone did that in your society and the court said that's I don't know, illegal, whatever, can't do it, but no one enforced it because they were too afraid of the consequences, wouldn't that just be like mass coercion, where everyone can take whoever's stuff they have force and no one's going to act because they're terrified?
Because remember, I advocate for a society that would bring this about. So this would be an ANCAP society where people, a large group of people would actually know self-defense.
Right,
so you're saying that this large group of people who advocate for self-defense would suddenly be afraid of defending themselves.
You will have isolated areas within the former United States where there are not a lot of people. And in those small pockets, like the states with low population.
Those small pockets are also the best at self-defense. Remember that. A lot of them.
It doesn't take... Okay, like in Maine, there's not a lot of people there. What's to stop a small regional terrorist organization from forming and controlling everyone there through fear and violence?
Self-defense and defense of others.
But even
if what you're saying happens, which is that people will self-defend themselves, it would still be pretty much a war. It would be
would cause conflict.
Yeah, there would be a lot of conflicts of people trying to essentially stake territory.
Well, defense is not the cause of conflict. Defense is the response
it's still
to conflict.
a conflict. But
you'd have a society where people are constantly trying to outwit or outperform other groups of people for property and resources.
It's competitive, yes.
But not in a good, violent competitive. Like people die.
It's violent competitive.
Violent competition is less efficient to voluntary competition. We've seen this over.
But it won't be voluntary. It won't. They will be forced into violent competition because there will be initiators of the violence.
Violent competition is less competitive compared to voluntary competition. We've seen this over and over again with history, where with colonialism is a perfect example, where this was a very non-profitable.
They don't care about efficiency.
Okay, well, efficiency does matter in a competitive society, as you've already stated, because if you're not competitive, if you're not efficient, you will fail eventually. or you will not do as well as a competitor, meaning that competitor who has voluntary interactions with society will eventually consume you.
I have
If
something
my neighbor-
to say.
And
Okay,
defend
yeah.
people and then voluntarily interact with them.
Toast, do you deny that humans are inherently tribal?
Humans. So, do I deny that humans are inherently tribal?
Yes.
Well, I mean, look at the blacks.
That we can be tribal, but I don't think every human is inherently tribal. I think there's.
It's not human nature to have a proclivity to wanting to be part of a group or part of a tribe.
I do think it's part of individuals' nature to individuals hold that nature.
Here's the thing. You can think of maybe the Stone Age before civilizations existed. It was in people's best interest to group together in order to have
To fight nature.
Well, yeah, in order to have a common interest in having things like division of labor and other such things, so that one person could fish and one person could hunt and one person could build the shelter and things like that. So humans inherently need to have a tribal structure in order to survive against nature and to progress as a sort of society, right? So,
well, hold on. That's a claim. That's a claim I don't necessarily agree with, because we don't need a tribal structure. That may be what we want deep down, if it is within our nature, but that's not what we need.
Well,
we've shown this over
by
hundreds
tribal
of thousands.
structure, I mean like a societal structure.
Okay, societal structure is not tribal.
Okay,
Tribal is one form of society that can occur.
Well, here, let me just finish my thought, and then it'll sort of come full circle, right? In, say, ancient Egypt, before like in the pre-dynastic era of Egypt, there were like 80 or 90 different very, very small kingdoms, which were essentially villages, and different tribes owned very small portions of land in ancient Egypt, right? And then there was this guy called Narmer, who was the king of one of these tribes, and he went through, and his tribe conquered the one next to him, and then they conquered the next tribe, and basically conquered all of Egypt and turned it into a nation state, right? So all of these tribes coexisted for a number of years because humans want to work together in order to build a society. And then there was this one guy who was imperialistic who came in and just wiped all the tribes out and crowned himself king because they had no other way to defend themselves. This is a sort of archetypal to how humans behave when there is a lack of law and order. Because, say, in an ANCAP society, when you abolish the state, people are going to group together in gangs because they have common interests, and those gangs are going to want more territory and more resources and will compete with other gangs for resources. And then eventually, after a few years, you'll just have another state again.
The issue is with this story about Egypt, this anecdote, is that they had a law and order. These tribes actually did form a government, formed law and order, and yet, nonetheless, they were downtrodden by an external unknown force.
Yes, but what I'm
saying
saying
is
we
are
that
unaware of any threat to the country.
In ANCAP society, you are vulnerable to external forces.
Right, but they are no longer unknown. That's the key difference that we see in history, is that every instance of a voluntary society that's been attempted, or somewhat voluntary society, I should say.
I mean,
in addition to other governments falling, is that you had an external unknown informed age that
So
we live
United
in. I
States,
don't think that's
so the
possible.
United States gets disbanded, and Alaska is no longer a state, has no government protection. What's going to stop North Korea from just shooting missiles at them? Because they know
destruction.
They know what.
Wait,
Mutually assured destruction.
How is it mutually assured destruction? Because
How is Alaska going to fight back? Do they have tactical nukes.
Well, they have military and also
If someone
anymore,
with a
but the
25 kill
government,
streak,
the government would be the military force. So if you take away the government, they don't have a military force anymore. They'd have to rebuild.
no, those military forces would still be there. Disbanding the
But
government.
how are they going to get to North Korea? What are they going to do? Invade North Korea by foot soldier?
We don't need to invade it. We still have nuclear devices. The thing is it would be self-defense to nuke someone who's nuking free people. If
There's no new.
you have the ability to stop them, you would do so in your own self-interest.
Or this scenario, North Korea nukes first, wipes out the entire area of Alaska. Now what? There's no retaliation because the United States.
No, we can retaliate.
Who would have?
Who's going to have any motivation?
Anyone who is acting in self-interest and self-defense. Because again, I don't advocate for the functions of government to go away. I advocate for it to be voluntary. We can still have a military, and we can still have nuclear devices.
Have you considered that government may be the most effective way to run government functions?
Well, that's demonstrably false because if you introduce competition, which we've done to a few.
I have one word to beat that argument. DMV.
Well, that's not all government functions.
I'm saying that's the slowest of all government functions, to be honest. And least efficient and just worst.
Yes. Okay, we get it. Some government functions are incredibly inefficient.
You cannot condemn the role of government just for their inefficiency in a few areas.
No, that's not why I condemn them because of inefficiency. I condemn them for their use of violence against nonviolent persons because it's pragmatically and morally inefficient.
It would be everything 10 times worse in an anarcho-capitalist
everything you propose would have to have some sort of group with violence to back up whatever happens. Like those courts, these private
self-defense is not violence.
These private police officers, these courts, they would all rely on the use of force to enforce whatever they say.
Self-defense is not the involuntary use of force.
Same with defending others. You forgot that.
Yeah, self-defense and defense of others is not the involuntary use of force, as long as the defense of others is actually defense and it's...
And what about retaliatory self-defense? Is that okay in your book?
Okay, so let's say that... Let's say that there's a gang of 1,000 people, and their strategy is to basically raid neighborhoods one by one during the night, right? So during the night, they'll have less resistance from self-defense, and they do it quietly. So it's like 1,000 of these gang members go into a neighborhood of 500 people, and only 100 of them get killed, but they capture the entire neighborhood. How do you prevent stuff like this from happening?
Self-defense and defense of others, because it's highly profitable to free those people.
Yes, it's highly profitable to free those people, but it's also going to be a bloodbath to do so.
It would be with a government. What do you suggest?
If there was a government, this kind of thing wouldn't happen.
Exactly. If there was a government, no. Hold on. You can't say that this kind of thing wouldn't happen because my society already advocates for self-defense and voluntary interactions.
Do you see bands of people overnight taking over towns on a regular basis?
No, because society doesn't do that. You want to know?
Yes, but why do you think they don't do it? Because of law and order.
Society doesn't do it because there will be consequences.
I'm not advocating for law and order to go away. Again, I'm not advocating for the functions of the government to go away. I'm simply suggesting we should make it voluntary. You can have law and order. There's the contractual law as well as the NXT.
Some people are not going to voluntarily submit if there is no government.
And then you defend yourself. It's the same thing with the government. Not everyone consents to government. There is still crime with government. There will be crime without government.
And there will be more
crime. Government is the greatest criminal of all.
There will be more crime without government.
Actually, government
and how do you expect like petty crimes to disappear?
So the government stole more money in civil asset forfeiture than thieves stole that year, 2016. And
I don't believe any individual or group
you're missing the point. You're missing the
as
point.
much damage as government. So,
well, see, the simple solution to forfeiture is to just get rid of it. You don't have to get rid of the government. You can just make that part no longer legal.
Okay, so what do you do with involuntary coercion?
Give me an example.
Having someone vote in a power over you.
So democracy?
Yes, a republic, democracy, and other forms of...
So you don't think that if there's 10 people in a room and 7 say one thing and 3 do another, those 7, like if those people want to do one thing, like leave the room or like take a left or right door. 7 people want to go through the left door. 3 people want to go through the right door. You're saying that as a group, because they want to stay together because they don't know what's going to be behind those doors. Are you saying it would be smarter for 3 people to go on their own and 7 people to go on their own, or just keep 10 in one group?
3 people should be allowed to go on their own if there's.
I believe that people should be able to make their own decisions, and Darwin will handle the rest.
They have their own decision to leave the country or go live in the mountains where no one's ever going to find them.
Can you tell me one place outside of this, or I assume that you're in the United States?
Yes.
And I apologize for that, but can you tell me one place in the world that's not covered by involuntary government control?
Well, a lot of areas of Africa don't have any sort of.
There is no other place that is
ungoverned Afghanistan, full of warlords. Somalia,
I'm about to say there is no place.
Warlords are not warlords are still a form of involuntary.
Warlords are a function of not
Warlords
having a state.
No.
There is no place where there's voluntary government because voluntary government has failed everywhere it has been created.
I said involuntary coercion. Can you tell me a single place where I can go in the world that is free of involuntary coercion?
And I'm telling you the reason why you can't find any place like that is because historically they have all failed. Societies built with voluntary enforcement has failed.
Really? Because the pre-1913 America did kind of fine.
That had a government.
The only reason it failed was due to, again, external unknown forces, which is not a possibility in today's informed age. It's a variable that no longer exists.
Actually, what about aliens?
My point with the anecdote about pre-dynastic Egypt is that the individual tribes are analogous to gangs, right? So, in the absence of a state, you will have gangs that compete for resources, and you haven't provided any explanation to why there wouldn't be gangs that would compete for resources.
I told you that it's not as efficient, so social Darwinism would eliminate them.
So kill off everyone who doesn't get resources.
In a failed state like, for example, Somalia, you see warlords popping up instead of everyone living in an ANCAP paradise. So obviously, human nature has a proclivity towards gangs.
Could you restate that?
Sorry. In ungoverned parts of Africa, like in Somalia, for example, which was a failed state, you have tons of warlords. Because
Somalia is governed, actually. It has multiple governments inside of it.
It has multiple governments because it became a failed state.
So how does that have to do anything with government?
Because after the Somalian government all but collapsed into Mogadishu, where in Mogadishu is the only place in Somalia that's actually governed by the Somali government. In all other places, the government forces retreated and basically left them to their own devices. And what you had was warlords popping up instead of everyone
those warlords
living in
are their own forms of government.
Huh?
They don't have a voluntary system.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the absence of a state, other states will form.
How do you prevent an involuntary system from forming in a system which there is no law? There's no one to.
No, there is law. First off,
but I've
told you this several times.
You have to agree that there's law. It's very subjective at this point. You have to acknowledge that there is law. In your society, no one would have to acknowledge there's law. You could just say, I don't want to follow those laws, and so there is no law.
It would be beneficial for more people to acknowledge that there is law. It's the social Darwinism. It's more competitive to act in a voluntary manner and abide by voluntary law.
It's more competitive to conquer people and then enforce your laws upon them instead of just like hanging out with everyone in agreed laws.
Okay, wait. So point
directly, because I can show you some. I can show you some facts and statistics if you'd like.
Hold on.
About what?
A question if you have any, or whether you're just trying to counter that outright.
Can you let Left Side make a point, because he hasn't really been talking for the entire.
Yeah, sure.
And he's a socialist.
Well, yeah, and as such, anarcho-capitalism isn't really my strong point. But what I was going to say is it just seems to be kind of going in circles. I think all the points that have been made are kind of just sort of synonyms of each other. We're not really going anywhere.
Do you think we should move on to another topic?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's been a very interesting topic. I'm not but like we're just kind of
Predictions on healthcare bill?
Fails.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
done.
next topic.
It's just going to be.
John McCain
reiterated.
is literally cancer.
Oh no! Oh, why would you do that?
Jesus. I give him a year.
Not my proudest.
That's so sad, actually.
Well-
I mean, he is a neocon, so
Neocons aren't people.
no.
Hey,
they are.
do you
Well,
guys-
Donald
I mean-
Trump and the GOP haven't been getting along at all in the Senate with
That's
this.
because Trump wasn't really Republican, to be honest.
Trump is more left-wing
There's
than
an
a
R
lot of
next
his
to his name.
supporters.
He's a
Well, that's
Republican.
because the moderate GOP base is a center-left organization, but
I can't stand the like modern GOP. Like me and Steve and a couple other guys were talking about how as soon as these old guys move out, I think that a more libertarian-based
Yes.
group of
Yes.
Republicans will take
Okay.
over.
I am an 18-year-old. I just registered as a Republican. I hope that does not happen. I don't
Why?
think the answer is because I think the Republican Party is as libertarian as it is right now. I think this is the best place to be.
Libertarian as it is right now, we went into the
mean-
Middle East, which we
The
never
Republican
should.
Party has just now started to. I've seen new polls where the Republican Party is embracing things like gay marriage and transgender rights and all that stuff. The Republican Party is.
And what about,
Hey,
the NSA? I haven't heard a single Republican condemn the NSA.
I haven't heard a single Republican condemn any intelligence agency since Obama left
Wait,
office,
wait.
except for like the normal libertarians.
Extreme nerd. Do you condemn
Guy.
the NSA?
I condemn its current form.
There we go. A registered, R has condemned the NSA. There you
I
go.
haven't heard a
Logan.
Republican politician other than libertarian-minded politicians condemn the
Yeah.
NSA since Obama left office.
Look,
Even
I'm
if they did it
definitely,
before when Obama was in office.
I'm definitely a libertarian person, but I don't
No.
think you need a. I've taken the political compass test and the other test,
Political
and I'm
compass test
very.
makes you way lower than you really are.
I'll
Okay.
register as a Republican, but I'll associate myself with the free.
Yeah, like a
Ron
conservative.
Paul 2016.
Like no, I don't like Ron Paul. He's just libertarian.
Wait, did you just
Whoa,
diss Ron
whoa.
Paul?
Whoa.
Get off your
Yeah.
fucking moral.
I'm
Libertarianism.
kicking you. You dissed Ron Paul.
Wait, Ron Paul isn't even an ANCAP. He just hates the federal government.
I just don't think libertarian. It works in theory. I don't think it works in practice.
Are you comparing libertarianism to communism?
No, I'm not. No.
Wait. Hold on though. What do you like? Define libertarianism for us. Extreme nerd.
Nice one, Conla.
Limited government. To the like, government only needs to do the bare necessities.
Well,
Like
that's,
no
Bare
healthcare. Not, like,
necessity.
That's minarchism.
Menarchism?
Minarchism.
never heard that term before.
Menarchism?
Minarchism is a more extreme form of libertarianism.
It basically suggests that the only function of the government is to protect life, liberty, and property.
Do you remember Austin Peterson?
Yes,
He was
I do.
a mini-anarchist.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't as much as a mini anarchist as much as like Daryl Perry.
Yeah,
Who's
but he was also saying give drugs to kids. So
Whoa. Whoa.
He was more of an ANCAP. Oh, he was almost there.
Oh, good. We had an ANCAP run in 2020. I mean,
He wasn't
2016.
quite an ANCAP. But he did say that he doesn't see a legitimate purpose for government.
I think my two favorite libertarians that ran were John McAfee and Austin Peterson. Because John McAfee is just a badass.
Well, Austin Peterson changed from the Libertarian Party
Yeah,
to
he's
the
running
Republican
for
Party.
the Republican Senate seat in Missouri, and I hope to fucking God he wins.
Well, I mean, I'd rather have him in the Senate than
Libertarians are sort
Chloe
of forced
McCaskill.
to run as a Republican.
What?
Most libertarians are sort of forced to like join
Yeah,
the Republican
I want-
Party.
A more large libertarian pace. Like, I'm gonna register as Republican.
Okay,
Well,
here's a question. I don't know if
I hate
anyone
the LP party. Like,
I don't know if anyone cares about this, but is there a point in having a third party? Like, what's the point of the Libertarian Party, really?
so that way, okay. Here's a little bit
Well,
of U.S.
I
history lesson. When third parties gain popularity, like especially single issue parties, like the Free Soil Party, their movements get co-opted by the bigger parties. So honestly, it's a way of showing what beliefs matter to people, and they might not necessarily win, but when people see that belief is very prevalent in society, they might bring that into their own party.
Yeah, but the Free Soil Party lost. Like,
Well,
the Democrats, when they endorsed...
the object of third parties in America is not necessarily to win elections.
Like the
it's
Populist
just to
Party.
raise awareness for your cause, so that the bigger parties will take that into account.
I'd like to
and
see the
maybe-
libertarians get a place on the debate stage.
I just
Oh, yeah.
That's all I want.
I think they should all have a
was an
place.
independent-
I think 2016 was a really missed opportunity for the Libertarian Party because you had two really unpopular presidential candidates, and the Libertarian Party nominated Gary Johnson.
Who was kind of a moron.
I think if they'd had a stronger candidate, they might have been able to really stir up some support. At least get.
Maybe not
There
a guy who
weren't
doesn't
really
know what
any
else
strong
was.
candidates for the Libertarian Party. I mean, Austin Peterson is good on paper, but I don't think anyone's going to vote for him because, he's young, he's inexperienced, and all that. So
Yeah, but Gary Johnson was just so bad.
yeah,
Guys
I'm
heard
not
of
saying
what
Gary
is
Johnson was any
Aleppo?
more electable, of course, because
What
he's
is
an idiot.
Aleppo?
But Austin Peterson would have been able to get the 15%.
Maybe. I
And
don't
what is Aleppo?
So, have you guys heard of a guy named Trey Gowdy?
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yeah, I've heard
yes.
of him.
He's from South Carolina.
Yep,
He's
that
pretty-
guy would, I think, do pretty well.
Yes, he should run.
Yeah, he would do pretty well. He's pretty good in Congress. He burns a lot of these idiotic.
Hey, are you
So many people.
putting your statist cuckism agenda on me by saying the word Congress and good in the same sentence?
Statist. What's the
Not
opposite of
to-
progress?
Not to meme.
Congress.
Well, anyway,
Not to
back
meme,
on the
but,
back on the issue of third parties. Well, a lot of the third parties they just group up into caucuses and either the two majority parties. That's why you got the Blue Dog Democrats, you got the progressives, which are basically the socialists, Bernie Sanders types, and then
Are there any more conservative Democrats left, though?
no, I don't.
I don't
think so.
Joe
So
Manchin's
then-
the only one that comes to mind. I don't think he's going to make it through 2018.
So then you got in the Republican Party, you got the Freedom Caucus, which is basically the Libertarian Party in the Republican Party, and then you got the Tuesday Group, which is just the centrist caucus.
The thing that's weird about, or the thing that's not weird but notable about American politics is that for most of our nation's history, the two parties haven't represented a right-wing party and a left-wing party. They were each sort of mixes of both until about 20 or 30 years ago, when the two parties galvanized into this is the party of left-wing things and this is the party of right-wing things.
Can I add to that?
Well,
Sure.
the thing is,
Oh wait.
Side?
Sure. Okay, so I think that American politics is so, I don't want to say removed from global politics and in the way it operates. I think you've got your own system and it's relative to the society. But I think to say that you now have a definitive left and a definitive right and then no other third party representation is very, I would say, misguided, because from a global standpoint, the Democrats and the Republicans are kind of, they are in and of the same thing, really. The Republicans are more right-wing and the Democrats are just centrists. Now, if you have a country, say, Germany or the UK, where you have third-party representation...
Yeah, but that's from a globalist standpoint.
well,
That's from in an American standpoint, Democrats are left-wing. From a globalist standpoint, the conservative party in the UK would be the Democrats in America.
I think the question is, are we normal or are you normal? Are you normal?
We're the
You're
most
America.
normal.
We are
number
just more
We are number
conservative
one. Hey.
than Europe.
I thought left side just left because someone left.
No, it was GRA.
Nah.
It was GRA.
But if I can just add to my point, when I was talking about third parties, I think it's a real shame that America didn't have proper third party representation, because if it did, we'd have governments with...
Well, we do. It's just a lot of libertarians and Green Party. They
The
just
problem
sort of...
with third parties is that, say, if the progressive Democrats want to, branch off and create the Progressive Party, then the Democrats are obvious. Then the left is obviously going to lose all the elections in the U.S. because they're split into two parties, while the right is, coalesced into one party.
Exactly.
Sort of what happened in
but-
the UK, where the Conservative Party is the pan-right-wing party for the UK, and then, there are, 15 left-wing parties, so the left can't win any elections there.
And I mean, even in the
No,
UK,
that's-
you only have 3. But I
15
only
is an
know.
exaggeration, but you get what
But
I mean.
I only know 3
There's
parties
2.
that are at least, I guess, relevant in the media. You got the Liberal Democrats, which are, I guess, more about the Conservatives, and the Labour. I guess.
And then
you-
you have the Democratic Party, which is definitely split. Like Bernie and Hillary were totally split during the
Bernie's not even a
primary.
member
Wait,
of
I
the
thought
Democrat
Although,
Party.
agreed with everything
after
Bernie
Bernie
said.
was knocked out, Hillary kind of adopted all of his talking points, and
Not all of them.
Jim Webb should have got the nomination. Just saying.
I really
No,
think someone
no,
like Jim
that-
Webb
I
would
would
have
have
won.
actually-
That one guy who got 1% of the vote should have won.
Yes, he should have.
Lincoln Chafee.
Kill yourself.
What I was saying was that the only way that you can guarantee that the population is going to be represented, the population that supports third parties and specific ideologies, the only way they're going to be properly presented is if they play some sort of core role in government. That's all well and good having people defect, say, to Republicans or the Democrats and trying to make an internal movement from in there, but it's a lot slower, it's more compromised. As a consequence, nothing really gets done.
Well, I mean,
Well, isn't it in the UK the Conservative Party has the plurality of representatives, but it's not a majority?
Yeah, they're
Isn't
in a coalition with
isn't that a problem? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily good for democracy if you've got one party with most people, but they're not the majority.
Well, that means that their policy, if they've not got a majority, then they're clearly not popular enough with the electorate to be.
Well, kind of
But wouldn't it be like
America.
you'd have a Congress where nothing gets done because no one would be able to do anything without the other side?
Well, no, because what would happen is the Conservatives formed a government with the DUP. So the DUP are propping them up on the basis that, okay, we've got this sort of support. You've obviously got a lot more. But if we're going to prop you up, we want to represent the interests of our people. Now, if you go back to, say, 2010, the Conservatives won the most seats, but the Liberal Democrats came a very close third to Labour. So what happened was you had a large majority of the population voting for the Conservatives, a fairly large chunk voting for the Liberal Democrats. Then those two going into coalition meant that a large proportion of the population had their interests being at least partially served. If you see what I mean. I mean, the situation now, the DUP and the Conservatives is not ideal at all. It's a very poor one.
that the left side, there's actually a pretty large group of National Socialists in the UK. Seriously.
Oswald Mosley for 2020.
What are you referring to? Britain First or the EDL or what?
I don't know. They have like an A in their symbol.
UKIP is Nazi. UKIP is Nazi.
No, they're fucking not.
Well, I mean,
What?
sorry.
No, I'll find the party. I'll DM it to you.
UKIP is
Okay,
Nazi.
sure.
It's more like a movement. But
Wait, is it that Irish one?
yeah, did you see the videos? This Irish guy, and he's like, "Back a long time ago, the only people here were white."
I don't know.
I mean,
That sounds like the DUP. Like, honestly.
I don't think it's not the DUP. I know for a fact it's not the DUP.
The Dublin bubble.
If I just say some political parties, and then so in Parliament at the moment, I'm just trying to think of the extreme ones. You've got
Scottish nationalists.
well, there's Sinn Féin. That's one of the Irish nationalist parties.
Well, there who was sneezing out of their butt. Oh.
What about the SNP? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes, that's the Scottish Nationalist Party.
Yeah.
No,
Yes,
but they're
I-
not really nationalist. They're kind of just social democratic. The name is misleading.
I mean, can you be nationalistic and socialist?
That means you're a National Socialist.
Oh my! So the Scottish
Scotland is Nazi Germany, confirmed.
Socialist Nationalist Party (SNP).
It's-
Fake news.
I think they they try for Scottish independence, but they know it's not going to happen at the moment. So as it is, they're just kind of representing Scottish issues. I don't think they're really that national.
Borders don't exist. It's a social construct.
Doesn't England have like less representation in the national government than the other countries? Or
no, it has a lot more.
More? Because I thought like there was some way in which Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland were like doubly represented somehow. I don't know where I heard this, but
no, the number of seats in England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland is proportional to the population, so it all evens out.
Okay.
I think the only reason you may think that is because if you have coalitions with parties in like Northern Ireland or Scotland, and
let's get on to more.
Yeah.
Let's talk about healthcare since Local wanted us to, even though he left.
Oh God. All right.
I feel like this is really just gonna be all of us versus the left side.
So
it's like 11 o'clock here. Come on.
Specifically on the Republican healthcare bill, or what?
He wanted us to talk about Obamacare.
Okay.
Do you know much about Obamacare?
I do.
Left side.
Oh. Yeah.
Bits and pieces.
I know.
I know it's not. I know it's not ideal. I'm opposed to it, but I'm guessing for reasons not similar to you guys.
Because it's not communism. Sorry.
I think it's a bit tyrannical to have a well, wait, is it the universal mandate? What's the provision in Obamacare where they essentially like find you for not having health insurance?
The individual mandate.
Okay,
they fine you.
Yeah,
they fine you.
I think that's a bit authoritarian because if I don't want to buy health insurance and that's my decision, why should I be penalized for making an economic
guys,
choice?
this is a friend of mine. He's also pretty leftist, and he pretty strongly supports Obama.
Well, he needs to get the helicopter then.
That's not leftist, then. That's just kind of center.
Just wait for him to get.
Okay, but left side. You're talking about on a globalist standpoint. But in America,
sure.
In America, that is a leftist standpoint.
Okay.
Everything is left.
Yeah,
right?
everything is communist. Yeah.
So is this guy gonna talk or what?
I have no idea.
Is.
Whoa.
Or is he?
Well, there. I just heard him. What do you mean?
All right, so make the case. Why is Obamacare good in 10 seconds or less?
Because everyone has healthcare.
Whoa.
No, that's
Is
not
that a
true.
good thing?
That's not true. That's not
For
true.
the majority.
Everybody does not have health care on Obamacare.
But it's way more than anything else.
May I ask why that's a good thing?
I think it's kind of general. It's because people then can go get treatment they need. Maybe it's not the best treatment, but it's better than nothing.
Oh.
Why give a failing person treatment?
Because they're still humans. I know it's kind of like a gay, kind of dumb standpoint of things, but I still think kind of a dumb.
No, I think it's a
dumb reason.
moralistic standpoint.
Yeah, it's morals. I think. Yeah.
So,
So who said
someone
give failing humans like medicine? Failing humans.
They're still humans.
Failing humans? Conley.
Hey, I think
Conley's a failing human.
I think providing support to people is a great thing. I'm just questioning whether we should be forcing people to provide support for failing.
Yeah, why should everybody pay into a system that they might not use?
Okay, look. Here's the thing about Obamacare I don't like. It's not that you have to pay it or any of this political crap. It's the thing. Obamacare's sole purpose is to save lives, right? The death rate under Obamacare has increased. That is my biggest problem with it, is that more people are dying under Obamacare than they were under a private healthcare system.
And they're forced to buy something they don't want to.
And it's also incredibly inefficient, and the subsidies or healthcare prices are at record highs.
Stream's point, does that take into account population increase or decline?
May I just remind you, Blaze Boy, Unwoundedtoast is an Anarcho-Capitalist.
He believes in the abolition of the state.
All I'm saying is, like, if Obamacare was saving lives, then I think there would be a real argument to keep it, or like not repeal it.
No,
But
I feel
Obamacare doesn't produce results, so I don't see the point of keeping it around.
I say keep it until there's actually a decent solution.
see the problem is
about
I have a
there's
solution.
not going to be a perfect solution for healthcare.
I have
besides,
a solution. Right? So you say to everyone, listen, you have to buy healthcare when you're young, like when you're 18 or whenever you get off your parents' insurance.
which is the exact opposite of what Obamacare did.
Well, hold on. Buying healthcare when you're young means that you have little to no pre-existing conditions. You get it for a low enough rate, and it's easy to buy healthcare. And then you have it for when you're old. But the problem is people who don't buy healthcare until they're like 30 or 40 because they want to save money or whatever, and then they can't get it. Big surprise. So I think for the people who made the mistake of not buying healthcare until they were really old, we should have a public option that should be phased out over time so that we can just encourage people to buy healthcare when they're young, and then the problem will disappear in a matter of a few decades.
That sounds like a good idea in my opinion.
Fantastic.
Wow. All right, we solved the problem. All right, now let's just be elected senators or representatives, and
So sort of like an illegal immigration, sort of fix the problem that's already occurring, and then make sure that like it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
wow, that sounds like how you solve a problem.
Yeah. Too bad that'll never happen in American politics.
Wait,
Solving a problem.
You know what? I'm just going to take the rest of the year off. Write it off.
Solving problems? I thought we were supposed to make them worse, says Congress.
Well, I mean, I would write.
Which is the AHCA is just so retardedly dumb because it's gonna totally just like turn Obamacare into absolute. It'll be horrible. It won't cover anybody, and it's like, why even have it? Why did they promise to replace it? Why didn't it just?
Here's the problem with the AHCA. Is Republicans are trying to please people who are on Obamacare right now, and they're trying to please people who want to get rid of it right now. And you can't do that. You have to go one way or the other. And Republicans are trying to walk a razor-thin line that cannot be walked. Thus, they're creating bills that satisfies nobody and just make the problem so much worse.
Let's keep Obamacare we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, don't worry, but we're going to replace it with Obamacare, but with a little ornaments. So
they never should have promised to replace it. The issue was that they wouldn't have promised to replace it, then they wouldn't have won the election.
And now the current bill has a $180 billion super fund to bail out the insurance industry.
Pretty much healthcare is going to get nowhere within the next 2 years at least.
Waiting for left side to talk about the benefits of single payer.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go in a minute, but I'll just say this: like Obamacare, the reason it's not doing very well is because it's inherently compromised. We talked a little bit earlier about rising.
Obamacare is not just a law that is trying to get people to have health care. It's also a law that is stagnating our economy because
I don't disagree.
There are two main regulations or requirements that businesses have to comply to. If you work 30 or more hours a week, your employer has to cover you. And if the business has more than 50 employees,
see, that's the big one. So if your business has more than 50 employees, you have to give them health care. That totally stagnates the economy because then companies are totally de-incentivized from expanding past 50 people.
Oh yeah, did you see that there was a debate between Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz in which a woman in the audience asked a question, and she was basically like, look, I own a small business and I can't hire more than 50 people because if I do, the health care I would have to provide them would completely destroy my business because I would go bankrupt. And Bernie Sanders was basically like, fuck you.
Well, I hear your story. I understand.
but you should have to cover them.
Okay, let me just say
You
this.
should actually have to do this.
Okay, let's
That's what Bernie said.
let's let left side speak.
Okay, I really have to go after this, but like this is my last thing. If you're trying to provide healthcare via the state when the majority of the sector is private, then the costs are obviously going to be a lot higher, because the sole purpose of the insurance companies and the private industry is to make as much profit as possible. So they're going to sell the medicines to the state for as large an amount as possible. And the problem comes there when you have forced people to pay it. I agree, that's a problem. So why not? So the obvious solution is to completely renationalize the health service. And I know people are going to be like, "Oh, communism," but like,
communism.
You know,
Yes, it is communism, actually.
Well,
The
it's
most
not
defeated
really.
voice
It's-
ever.
Well, I'm just tired. But yeah, that's the obvious solution, and I really have to go now. So
Ben Shapiro said something that was truly brilliant.
Ben Shapiro, the Jew.
He said that people on the left, you have to defeat their arguments with morality, because they don't care about efficiency or policy. If you tell them that their policy is inefficient, they won't care. You have to beat them from a moral standpoint. So my question is to everybody, as a general discussion, what is a moral standpoint against giving the population free healthcare?
Wait.
Why should people be forced to pay for others' healthcare? That's one.
Well, are they using it themselves too?
But what the left is going to argue is that it's worth the price for people to maybe involuntarily pay for other people's healthcare for everybody to get healthcare.
Is it morally right to coerce someone, even if it's a necessity?
Oh my god.
Well, I think the easy moral thing to say would be Obamacare is killing more people than private healthcare does. So
see, you're arguing efficiency.
Well,
that's
that's also morality,
actually,
because it's bad for people to die.
Extreme. I don't want to defend Obamacare here, but
Blaze, let's hear your standpoint.
Yeah. My standpoint, and being left, it's like, well, it's the right thing to do. Yes, I don't think it's not efficient enough, right, for the price, right? And it obviously needs to be changed in some way or shape or form. But until they can do that, I think it's the price that should just be paid.
Anyway, I was going to say something too extreme. So you were talking about some statistics, and I'm not trying to defend Obamacare, but I think that you were saying that it was killing more people. Were the statistics adjusted for how many more people were actually using insurance?
No, the source I'm looking at is simply pointing out that since Obamacare has come into effect, more people have died in this country.
No, is it more of a percentage of the people with insurance dying, or is it just how many people are dying?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It was just like an aggregate overall, more people have died.
Well, that's not resistant to bias, and there's no correlation as well. There's no correlative data.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna pull the article real quick. Y'all keep talking.
Because if it's just saying that more people are dying, well, more people have insurance, so that could actually be false.
And there are external factors as well, such as war, such as terrorism.
Yeah. I don't think unless you can be directly correlating it to like healthcare, then that fact has no point.
Regardless, I was going to ask you, Blaze. You said you wanted to see a better system. May I ask why the free market is not a good system to provide healthcare?
Because not everyone can afford it.
But
if you had a free market, it would be more profitable to provide it to the lower classes, as it's an untouched market.
Because of our mixed economy system, we have a very weird system, because both the government and insurers want to cover people, and the government wants to cover just the poor, and then they get covered by the government poor, but the free market also wants to cover those poor people too, because
there's a market for them.
Mm-hmm. So if the government wouldn't be covering these poor people, and private insurers wanted to cover these poor people, so on a market economic
standpoint. Let's say the middle class and the rich, they can afford healthcare. So the price of healthcare is adjusted for the middle class and the rich, and the government is providing for the poor. Now, if the government wasn't providing for the poor, the private market would want to cover the poor, and they would lower their prices for the poor. And that would lower the prices for everyone, because more people would actually be on insurance, and the cost sharing make the price go down. So you see what I'm trying to say here?
I think that's a really smart solution, but I think what needs to happen is like an actual like meeting of some sort to plan this out. Because what if it doesn't go through the way that people want it to? Then now we have no insurance and it's expensive still.
Well, why don't we just have a program that says to all these people on Medicare and Medicaid that we'll keep the Medicare and Medicaid if this fails, but for now we're going to give you I don't know, a year or 2 years to get ready to buy private insurance, or we're going to tell the insurers that we're going to be opening up the market to you, and we'll see what happens. And if it fails, we'll go back to the inefficient system.
Yeah, it just needs to be planned out properly by the government.
I found a graph. U.S. mortality, age 15 to 64, eliminating external causes. The death rate has not decreased since 2012.
What external causes did they eliminate?
All external causes. So, like, no murder, discarded. Natural deaths have been increasing for the last 4 years
Natural deaths, it doesn't correlate to Obamacare either.
Why not?
Well, first off, you have population differences, and unless they could have factored for that, so I'm not looking at the data.
I'm going to post the article into the chat real quick.
Regardless of Obamacare coming into effect, more people could have just died. There's no reason to believe that it was a direct cause of Obamacare.
No, but this graph fluctuates. The murder rate has gone up and down from year to year until 2012. It has just not murder, mortality rate. It's in that link I just posted. If anyone wants to take a look at it after this.
Okay.
Again, so you have a correlation if this is to be believed, but there's no causation.
The year Obamacare was implemented is the year where death rates start to go up. There's
correlation, but that's not causation.
Because of the
let's kind of move on from this statistic.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I was going to ask Blazeboy is, do you believe it's more profitable to make healthcare too expensive or to make it affordable?
That's a good question. I think it's all about what the age group is and who's buying it at the time and what the government.
Well, I'll actually tell you that it doesn't matter on the age group. Affordable healthcare actually does make more profits than.
Okay, I'm back. So what do you guys?
Than non-affordable, than expensive.
So another thing that I wanted to talk about with health.
I have a really good point on this. Could you let me go first, Fine. So and what you'll find is that they will have wait times that are over 100 days at their offices, and that most of the veterans won't even use it. 66% of them won't use it, and 75% of the ones who do use it prefer to use other healthcare instead, because their wait times are ridiculous, and they don't have any incentive to treat their customers with care. In a free market, there is an automatic incentive across the board to make the price as low and make the care as high quality as possible. Mm-hmm. And this applies to healthcare too. We've increased healthcare spending from 4% of our budget to 25% in a certain amount of time, and things haven't gotten substantially better.
Also, another argument.
What? What? You just muted your mic. Another argument for single. Well, what you doing there, Flub?
Do you think we should end it here? Because we're way over on
2 hours in.
No, we're not 2
Sure.
hours in.
We're
Because I
about
started
90
late,
minutes.
remember?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't really care. I don't have any other topics.
Alright, so does anyone have a final point to make? He's telling us to wait, but
I wait for no man.
he wants to make a final point, so I don't know what he's doing though.
Who's making a final point?
He wants to, but he's not on the call. He says,
Give me
give me
2
2 minutes. Okay, so we
Oh.
need a topic to talk about for 2 minutes.
The final point is the final solution. Discuss.
Okay,
Alright.
final solution. Good or bad idea?
Final solution. Final
Bad
solution.
because I think we can learn from the Jew and out-Jew the Jew.
Okay, good idea.
Jew the Jew? Whoa there.
No,
Yes.
it was a good idea.
All
We
right.
don't need them. They're a total drag on
blatant-
society.
Well,
blatant-
he is a Nazi. So anyway, what I was going to say about healthcare and stuff.
I am
lot
a
of-
Nazi.
No, I am.
No. Okay,
Oh.
so anyway, a lot of the pro-single payer people, you know how there are these sort of people who don't get their insurance through their employers and they're self-employed, or the market just doesn't want to cover these people. Well, these people, they have the choice to join these healthcare associations, which is basically a group insurer that says to these people, okay, to this group insurer, and your money is going to go to the single insurer to cover all. And they
Is
put in,
actually,
say what?
okay, there's actually a point I'd like to make. TYT made a video.
They
Um,
enforce you.
Yeah, you. Right. I really just watched the Steven Crowder rebuttal to it. But basically, they said that they basically said that that single payer healthcare has been in Germany for like 150 years, and it was literally like they were saying that this king of Prussia would give healthcare to people, but in order to qualify for this healthcare, you had to be 70 years old, and you know what the average life expectancy was? 42.
Wow. So.
So it was so dumb,
It's
and then
almost as inefficient as American politics.
and then you realize that in order for you to opt out of the single payer system in Germany, you have to make more than 4,800, whatever their currency is, a month.
Marks.
A month.
Euros.
Euro? No,
Oh,
not
yeah,
in
that
the
is true.
1400s.
4,800 euros a month.
That's authoritarian. I think Germany is pretty authoritarian as a country.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
They're saying that they want to end gay marriage to make the refugees happy, right?
Well,
Jesus
no,
Christ.
all of the authoritarian things that happen in Europe are only caused because of the mass intake of Muslim refugees.
Yeah, we don't need
this for
any
a fact,
Muslim
because
refugees.
It's just a scheme for the.
I mean, look at what happens in Sweden. They let them in. They didn't give any restrictions on them coming in, and look at it. It's literally like it's practically a war zone there.
Yeah, it is authoritarian to be liberal.
People don't have the right to bear arms in Germany. Merkel is notorious
even
for
buy knives.
arresting. Yeah, you can't. And Merkel is notorious for arresting people who criticize Islamic refugees. Germany's going to break out into civil war.
No free
very
speech, no right to bear arms, forced healthcare, fucking Muslims everywhere.
Muslims, just
Anything else?
We are definitely witnessing the fall of Europe.
No, we are.
We need to just insulate ourselves in the
And
United
you know what's
States.
funny?
No one
We're gonna
comes in, no one
witness-
goes out.
We're gonna witness the fall of Europe, And the left in America isn't even going to care.
Yeah,
That's
they're going
what's
to be
so
like,
dumb.
hey, we need more, diversity.
They just keep coming up with these new examples. They had Canada. Oh, their wait times are like 6 months for like the most basic things. So then they switched to they switched to Sweden, and then they realized there's rape everywhere in Sweden. They switched to all these different examples, and they've all turned out to be bad. And now they're switching to Germany for their example, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard people say, well, Germany is the best country in the world. It's not America, it's Germany. And I'm like, you do realize that if you criticize the government in Germany, a policeman will come to your house and tell you to stop being racist, right? They don't have freedom of speech in Germany.
All right. So anyway, as I was going to say, if I lived in a European country, I wouldn't live for one reason, or a lot of reasons actually. If I didn't comply to the liberal doctrine that these nations wanted me to, they would probably send me to some sort of insane asylum and have me secretly killed.
Well, that's
And
not true. But
another thing, I would probably be killed by the Muzzies.
I think you're over-exaggerating a little
I don't
bit.
even think. I mean, obviously, the Muslim terrorism is an alarming thing, but what's really disturbing me is the government reactions to them, which is to silence those who are talking about it and to crack down on the victims instead of the attackers.
Terrorism is a human right.
I think we should talk about this in a different episode because we've been on here for a while. But I think the relationship between feminism and Islam, I think, is one of total paradox. Yet
It's just so. I don't understand.
Are they stupid?
It just doesn't make any sense. They're protesting here, and they don't even mention. They never mention what's going on in the Middle East, and they're like, "Quit being Islamophobic."
Well, they'll bring it up in the Middle East, but they'll chop it up to just men being evil, and they won't acknowledge that it's the religion there that's making society sexist.
Islam is the most patriarchal thing I can imagine.
Well, just the Muzzies. Muzzies are literally the Jews of our times.